Hi everyone, and welcome to Over to Her by Policybazaar, where women talk about money, power, and game-changing moves. Today we've got a true trailblazer, Adwaita Nayar, CEO of Nykaa Fashion and the co-founder of Nykaa. She's not just a leader, she's a builder, a risk taker, and a driving force behind one of India's most iconic brands. Today's a rare chance to get inside the mind of a woman who's shaping Indian fashion. So, Adwaita, welcome to Over to Her. Thank you so much for doing this. So, let's start by setting the stage. Adwaita has had an incredible journey. She's led change and driven innovation, from career defining moments to the weight of leadership. And this segment is all about getting to know the person behind the title. So, Adwaita, let's do just that. I want to start off by understanding a little bit about your journey. You know, you've built Nykaa and Nykaa Fashion, and these are today household names. Was that always a big part of the plan or something that you thought of initially?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for having me. No, to be honest, Nykaa's journey started about 12 years ago. My mom wanted to start a business, and I was fresh out of undergrad. I thought it'd be fun to join her. And we just really dreamt up Nykaa from scratch. We read some research reports which made us understand that beauty was a good space. And just sitting in my bedroom, we started to sketch out what this app and this website could be, with this vision of, can we be India's one-stop shop for beauty? We often talk about how we had no idea that Nykaa would be where it is today. We didn't start with that ambition. We just wanted to build something interesting that the country needed, and I think it's exceeded all our expectations.
It absolutely has, because who'd have thought that those little chats in your bedroom would now have led to this, online behemoth in beauty and fashion. And, speaking of your mum, Falguni Nayar, she has obviously played a very big role in your life, and you've gone on record to say that she is one of your biggest role models, both professionally as well as on the personal side. Given that you have also become a leader with so much integrity, what would you say would be that one piece of advice that was really game-changing for you? I know, I'm sure there's a lot. But
there's a lot.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, I'll give two.
Sure.
The first is professional. The second is personal. She is truly my role model in so many ways. I think on the professional side, it's been about learning to take risk. I think a good entrepreneur is one who knows what risk to take, when to take it, how to take it.
Yeah.
And I feel that's really her superpower. Watching her, observing her on how she thinks about what to do next for the business has been something that I've really learned from her. So I think she's always willing to rock the apple cart, start a business, start a new vertical, even when there are naysayers. And watching how she takes that judgment call is something that I've been really inspired by and been trying to imbibe a lot of. On the personal front, one piece of advice she always gives me and my friends, which I've said previously on other podcasts, is she teaches this generation to be average. She says that you guys are all trying to be trying to do everything all the time. Just learn to be average. Like, you don't need to be 100% at work every day. You don't need to be 100% mother every day. Just balance it. Be easy on yourself. Be kind on yourself, and that's how you can make this a long and fruitful journey.
And I think you're doing a wonderful job of that, making this such a fruitful journey. And, while you're in the boardroom and being, donning the CEO's hat, you do a fantastic job there. And then there's also the hat of being a mother. And, you just spoke of, this perception of having it all and doing it all, and that very delicate balance that one needs to maintain. How do you manage to have that little one at home, the needs that we all know are ever so demanding, and yet be that boss woman in the office?
So I can't say I have it figured out. I'm a new mom. My baby is just 8 months old. And I think it's a journey to figure out how one can manage both motherhood and working. But I think two things. The first is, I know I want both. I want a career, I want to work, and I want to be able to give it a lot of time. And I also want to be a mom. And I feel both those roles challenge me and help me grow in very different ways, and both are incredibly fulfilling. So I'm just very sort of clear and stubborn that I want both. And I think once you know you want both, you can try to figure out the right balance. And I think that balance changes with every year. And even I see it even in 8 months, that what she needed in the first couple of months is very different than what she needs now.
Yeah.
So I think that's one way that I try to sort of juggle. And then the second thing, and again I've learned this from my mom, is I really try not to take any guilt. I try not to feel that mom's guilt, which everyone talks about. I think I grew up with a working mom who was always working, but she was also a really amazing and present mom. And I think having that as a role model makes me feel that actually, if we can show our little girls that you can work and you can have a career, and if they see that role modeling in their mom, I think it's a really great gift you can give them so that when they get older, they feel they can do it as well.
Yeah, and they can be inspired by you as well. No, that's so important. And I think the fact that you hit the nail on the head saying that you were clear that you wanted this. So there's no right or wrong, but that's a decision that you chose, and now you're living that life with those consequences. But beyond the CEO's hat, Adwaita, who is Adwaita, or how do you unwind? Do you have any guilty pleasures once the emails stop, if they ever do?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, ever since I became a mom, it really feels my life is just very sort of limited in the sense that it's either work or it's with my baby. And I don't feel necessarily I have that much time for other things. But the things I do value is I value relationships. I'm very close to my family, very close to my friends. For me, there's nothing more energizing than connecting with people and having a really nice, cozy dinner with family or friends. So I make a lot of time for that even now. And I think other things that sort of energize me is travel, just being inspired by different countries you go to and things you see and experience.
So what does a typical day in the life of Adwaita look like? Because, with a business like this, running it takes discipline, it takes strict routine. Do you have a sort of very slotted out day, or is it, going with the flow?
Yeah, I think it is quite regimented. I'll typically start my day around 6:30. The first 2 hours are with my, baby. I could get to office very early and just 8.5 hours in the office, rush back to the baby, 3 hours very focused with her, and then again pick up a little bit at night as needed. So like I said, the world right now for me is just these two aspects. But within the workday, I actually like to keep a mix of regimented and free flowing. I think one of the best pieces of advice I got was try to keep your day light. Like, you shouldn't be in back-to-back meetings. If you're actually running your business well and setting everyone else up for success, it should not be firefighting. And I think as a leader, having enough time in the day which is just empty and for your own thinking and creativity and just exploring topics deeply, I do try to keep very large chunks of my day, at least half the day, just empty. And I feel lucky I can. And it's not always been like this at Nykaa, but as Nykaa has gotten bigger and we have such fantastic leaders and managers in place, it does give me a lot more time to just think, read, explore.
Okay, so that's interesting. It's a very strict routine, and you, of course, want to maximize it by spending time with your daughter. But I want to get to our next segment then, Adwaita. And every leader has a moment that really shifts their perspective, a challenge, an opportunity, or it could be a lesson that really changes the game. So here we'll be diving into the defining moments that shaped Adwaita's career and leadership philosophy. This is The Turning Point. So Adwaita, before Nykaa, you've dabbled in finance, consulting, even global development. There was Morgan Stanley, Bain & Company, Citi, etc. That's a real buffet of experience. So how did working in some of those organizations shape the way that you run your business or the way you think now? And even when you made that shift in 2017 to come back to India, what was the biggest mental shift you had to make?
So I joined Nykaa pretty early. I just had graduated college, spent a year working at Bain. But there have been some lessons and learnings from, both college days as well as my early Bain days. I think one thing I really learned, and it still guides me, is I always try to seek out the challenging roles. So I feel even in undergrad, I chose to study applied math. I was not the best at applied math. It was a very challenging major for me. But I always felt that experience helped me see that when you actually push yourself into very uncomfortable zones and do things that you're not inherently just brilliant at, that's when your most growth comes. And I think that's been a guiding philosophy even to come back and join Nykaa, and then even within Nykaa, I always sort of raise my hand to start the new businesses.
Really?
Because I feel like I enjoy the learning that comes with it. I think at Bain, I absolutely loved that experience, the 1 year that I had there. I think Bain has an amazing culture, a corporate culture, the way they kind of inculcate the values that they believe in from day one. Even today I can rattle off like the three Bain values. So I feel like the way they sort of live and breathe their values is something I'm really inspired by, and I've tried to bring back to Nykaa.
That is quite interesting, actually, that you bring that up. The fact that you have that sort of risk appetite, and I think was that to a great extent the reason that you decided to also pursue your MBA at a time when you were running a company of this scale and this size, and how did that also help shift your mindset? And in hindsight, was that a good decision that you made?
Yeah. So I had been with Nykaa for 2 years, and then I went for my MBA.
Yeah.
And actually, Nykaa was very different back then. Obviously, it was the first 2 years of the business being around. It wasn't that we were successful. And in fact, I sought out an MBA because I was finding entrepreneurship so hard. As you probably know, entrepreneurship can be such a roller coaster.
Yeah.
And the lows can be so low. And I just felt at the age of like 23, 24, I just sometimes didn't feel strong enough. I felt like maybe I don't have what it takes to be an entrepreneur. And so that's why I sought out an MBA. My mom also pushed me, saying that you have your whole life to work, but you don't have too many opportunities to study. And going and getting that MBA and studying case after case, company after company, it helped me understand that all businesses have ups and downs. And you start to see the patterns that most businesses go through. And I think in a weird way, it actually helped me see that, hey, like, I think I need to go back again and try to, do Nykaa, do it well, and form that sort of thick skin that entrepreneurship needs. So what I'm trying to say is studying other cases and other businesses helped me develop a bit of a thick skin to be able to handle, the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. And I think I came back a lot stronger and a lot more excited to be an entrepreneur and less rattled with sort of the difficulties that it sometimes brings.
Yeah, that is so crucial. And, entrepreneurship is definitely not as hunky-dory as it looks. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. Speaking of which, you've also said that just because you win in beauty, that does not mean that you're going to win it in fashion. You have to fight for it. So tell us a little bit about what, those battles actually look like behind the scenes, what we don't get to see.
Yeah.
And what were some of the truly tough moments that tested you?
Yeah. So I think for the audience, the context is Nykaa obviously started as a beauty retailer.
Yes.
And from 2012 to 2018, we were just beauty. And in 2018, we said, hey, should we try to do what we did in beauty and fashion as well? Fashion is obviously a much larger space, market size-wise, than beauty. And we were excited by that opportunity. We also felt like there were some problems to solve. But fashion was definitely a very different space than beauty, in the sense that there were three big players already in the market who had very deep pockets in terms of the online space. For me, it was a great lesson on how do you build a business in a space where you have competition. And I think the number one lesson for me was, if you're entering a space with a lot of competition, differentiation is everything. You can't be a Me Too. You need to position yourself in a way that every customer can be like, Nykaa fashion is different because of X, Y, Z. And so we spent a lot of time crafting a differentiation and figuring out what were the customer pain points, what was something different we could do in fashion. And I think we did try to do and build something different. And I think it has taken 4 or 5 years to be where we are, but now the business is in a good place. It's almost 4,000 crores of GMV, but it hasn't been easy. I think fashion has been a difficult journey. And I think what also made it difficult was, we built beauty largely when we were a private company.
Yeah.
Whereas we built fashion largely while we were a public company. And, constantly having that public scrutiny when you're building a new business, where everyone seems to have an opinion on how you should build a business, learning how to stay true to what you believed and yet tweaking your business as inputs are coming in and data is coming in is something that was challenging.
Speaking of challenging, what were some of the moments that made you say, okay, I have to pull through, I have to make this work, or I've cracked this, or any sort of learning that you've had while building a Nykaa fashion while being a publicly listed company?
So I think, the debate in fashion has always been at what pace to grow and at what burn. And I think, as a company, we've always believed in building sustainable businesses which have a very clear path to profitability, and even if that means slightly slower growth. So I think we always had a modus operandi. Of course, there was pressure on, are we doing the right approach and so forth. I think for me, what always helped me pull through, even when the numbers were up and down here and there, is always coming back to the fundamentals, which is fashion is an amazing space and an amazing market. And it is 5 times the size of beauty, and Nykaa needs to have a play in the fashion industry. It's a very important part of India's economy, and I think the hard work that we put in now will help us establish ourselves in the future. So just coming back to the fundamentals on why we like the business, why we like the space, why we see the customer, proposition as we do, the problems we see in the space today, always helped me kind of get energized again and again, saying we got to do this.
Yeah. I guess that, glass half full, glass half empty, and you're looking at the long term and the future of the business. Let's get a move on then, Adwaita. And financial independence, that's not just about numbers, it's about empowerment, it's about control over one's future and confidence. So in this segment, we'll explore personal finance revelations, lessons that are learned, and the advice that can inspire the next generation. Now we're getting to money matters, and it's interesting because money means so many different things to different people. For some, it's just security. For some, it's freedom. For some, it's growth. For some, it's just peace of mind. What about you? What does financial independence mean to you?
Yeah. I think, financial independence, money has always meant for me, a sense of peace of mind, in the sense that you can focus on then investing in yourself. You can focus on maximum learning for yourself. The career choices you can make can be more risky. The experiences, the education, everything I've always tried to use money I've had to enrich myself from a learning perspective. And I feel blessed that I have had that peace of mind to be able to invest in myself. More generally, I feel that financial independence, particularly for women, is incredibly important. It's sort of the number one thing that I wish for all women of India, is to have the opportunity to work and earn for themselves, because I think it just gives you the ability to make your own choices, and I feel like your own choice making is the ultimate form of empowerment which every Indian woman needs.
So do you have a sort of a personal money rule or a philosophy that you work by? And how important as well do you think insurance is in times like this when, you don't know what you're going to wake up to the next day?
Yeah, I'll take the latter question first. I think, again, coming back to I wish for women to have financial independence, I also feel that insurance is an incredibly important part of that, and it's very pivotal to financial planning. And so again, I feel that we need more Indian women to understand the importance of insurance, and not just Indian women and men. The penetration of insurance in the country is really low. So I think it's just a really prudent part of financial planning. And again, gives you that ability to make your own choices on difficult days.
यार सोच रहा हूँ पॉलिसी बाजार से टर्म लाइफ इंश्योरेंस ले लेता हूँ ताकि मेरे बाद फैमिली को पैसों की कमी ना तू भी ले ले यार अभी तो यंग है यार बाद में देखते हैं आजा ले ले भाई
लाइफ का कोई भरोसा नहीं पॉलिसी बाजार पर 1 करोड़ का टर्म लाइफ इंश्योरेंस सिर्फ 400 रुपए महीने से शुरू.
Coming to my own philosophy when it comes to money, I think it's really simple. I believe in spending very modestly and living sort of frugally and saving aggressively. And I think that just not really changing the way you live despite your salary going up or your income or your wealth going up is something that I believe in. I feel that you can find a lot of satisfaction just from within, and I try to avoid being dependent on materialist things in sort of an excessive manner.
That is such a breath of fresh air, Adwaita. I feel, especially in our generation, when everyone's chasing, that latest thing in fashion or looking to spend more and acquiring more and more and more. Would you say that's something that you've learned from? I mean, where was that habit inculcated?
Look, I think it's all relative. Like, I'm sure people look at how I spend and say that's not frugal. But I think what I mean to say is I'm very conscious that I don't want the way I live to change over the years or as my wealth increases. I just think it's a slippery slope. It's sort of endless. And just learning to be content with what you have, with other non-materialistic things is just something I care about. Where did I learn it from? I mean, I think to some extent both my parents have this quality. And I think the person I married, Anubhav, he actually has this quality hugely. And so in some ways, I feel he's my inspiration that, this is the way to live. Just sort of live within your means, well within your means, and save aggressively.
For you, as you've gone on record to say your mother's not just a role model, but she's a source of invaluable lessons. How are you looking to pay that forward? It could be with your employees or to the next generation. What is that one piece of advice that you would want to share?
I think the way that women who have the ability to reach, people, as I, fortunately do even in this podcast today, I think authenticity is something I try to bring. I think one of the most damaging things for anyone, women or men, is to see people not actually being truthful about their experiences. So I always try to be authentic. Like, building Nykaa has been really hard. Early days of Nykaa were extremely hard, and I've been open about some of the mental health challenges I faced then, and just how difficult early days of entrepreneurship are. I think I've gone on record talking about my IVF and fertility journey. And for me, it's all about just being open and honest. I think the world has become too much of a place through social media where we're all just projecting a very sunshine sort of perfect, my life is perfect image. And I think that's very, very detrimental to young people and to everyone. So I think authenticity is something I try to bring. I bring it in every conversation I have with people on my teams and so forth. I think the second thing I try to do, and honestly just living life, and as I'm getting older, I'm learning it, is like being a woman is really hard. After I got married and had my baby, I realized that still in India, despite an amazingly supportive husband and family, huge amounts of the workload of both the home and child rearing are on the woman, and it is unspoken amounts of mental load that the women carry. And as I experience it, I feel I'm becoming a more empathetic manager, because I understand now that so many women in my team have similar, if not far more difficult responsibilities at home. And I think as a manager, what I can do is bring a little bit of understanding. And I think it's only something I'm learning as I'm getting older. Because Adwaita, who of 10 years ago, just couldn't understand if someone was late for a meeting, if someone couldn't do the responsibility in a particular way in a particular time. But now I realize that one of the biggest gifts we can give to women employees is that understanding and that belief that I understand your intent, that you want to do your work, and then giving them a little bit of flexibility to get it done.
Yeah. And Adwaita, I'm sure there's so many women who look up to you, and while you have acknowledged that it isn't an easy journey and you're talking about the importance of authenticity, what are some of the other lessons, or what is it that you want to tell women who are maybe saying, I don't know if I can do this, or is this too much, or can I work plus have a job? What would be the messaging that you want to share?
I think another thing I believe in, and I often tell everyone, I don't think it's about women or men, but something I struggled with was just taking space and making your voice heard, despite always being someone who was very on top of my work. And I think my biggest message to young women and men is just be confident in yourself, take up space, ask for what you need, make your points, don't shrink, don't be small. And like, young people are really capable of enormous things. I think if we sort of empower them to be able to take up that space.
And even ask for help, I guess, when you need
Ask for
it.
help when you need.
Yeah.
25 लाख का हॉस्पिटल बिल है, इतने पैसे कहाँ से आएंगे?
पैसों की चिंता आप मत कीजिए पापा।
मैम, सर का हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस क्लेम अप्रूव हो गया है।
आप
पॉलिसी बाजार।
हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस क्लेम में हमेशा आपके साथ पॉलिसी बाजार। 1 करोड़ का हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस सिर्फ 550 रुपए महीने से शुरू।
So it's really been interesting, understanding so much more about you and what goes on behind the scenes. But we want to make things a little bit fun. So we've got a segment called PB Quick Hits, and it's sort of just quick, snappy answers that come to mind. If you had to swap roles with your mum for a day, what would be the first thing that you would do?
Yeah, I'd tell her to go babysit, or I would hope she'd go babysit my baby at home.
What do you think is, maybe one podcast or a book that you've read that's really shaped your leadership journey?
Yeah, I think two. I loved Marcus Aurelius's book, The Meditations, which is basically the Stoic philosophy on how to live. Really inspired by it.
Okay.
And the second is Pour Your Heart Into It by Howard Schultz,
Okay.
the founder of Starbucks. And I think the amount of heart with which he built that business is something I'm always really drawn to.
I'm going to try. I'm going to get my hands on that book.
Yeah.
Any one financial habit that you swear by?
Everything you do it for the long term.
Okay. What would be, if not fashion, maybe one industry or one role that you see yourself in?
Always been really drawn to healthcare and education. So something in that space. But these days I also have these dreams of going back to a college town or university and getting
Oh,
a
really?
PhD in something and just being a little bit academic.
Who knows? You still have
Yeah.
the prospects of doing
Yeah,
that.
many chapters to life.
Yes. And what did you do with your first paycheck?
You know, I feel like it was just the usual expenses, but I think the first time I felt really good about spending money was when I bought a piece of jewelry for my mom.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
So to give something back
Yeah.
always feels
Yeah.
good. After all she's done for you. And if you could go back to your first day at Nykaa and give yourself a piece of advice, what would you say?
Businesses take decades to build, and truly decades with an S. And so every day doesn't have to be a fire. And just take it easy and just do it day in, day out for decades, and you'll get somewhere good.
I feel like, Adwaita, you've given me so many pearls of wisdom. I want to just sort of jot them all down. So thank you so much for taking the time out and doing this. It's really been so inspiring and so wonderful.
Thank you so much, Ivan. It's been lovely to be here.
Thank you. And that is a wrap on this power-packed episode with Adwaita Nayar, the CEO and the co-founder, builder, boss, and most importantly, a woman who's rewriting the rules on what leadership looks like. From boardrooms to baby bottles, from spreadsheets to style edits, she is proof that ambition and authenticity can go hand in hand. She's not just building a brand, she's building a blueprint for women who dare to dream bigger, risk smarter, and lead louder. Remember, power isn't always loud. It's consistent, it's intentional, and it's deeply personal. So take notes, take charge, and until next time, keep owning your story, your money, and your magic. This was Over to Her by Policybazaar.